news on Friday. It's been an interesting month of conversation for Matthew Stafford and teams around the league, and eventually the Rams are able to restructure a deal that will keep their quarterback right there. Stafford had a couple of seasons left on an extension he signed in 22. Had talks with the Raiders and the Giants, but he's going to remain QB of the Rams. Jeremy Fowler joins us now from the Combine in Indianapolis. And Jeremy, these teams that need quarterback help in the National Football League are all still looking because Matthew remains in Los Angeles. It's like a game of musical chairs. There aren't nearly enough chairs. So this sort of amplifies the pursuit where?
Well, it amplifies the pursuit at about 6 different teams, Scott. You have the New York Giants, which I was told pushed really hard to get Matthew Stafford. 4 or 5 different iterations of potentially trying to make it work, putting together a package, but not a ton of intriguing options to fill all these musical chairs because 5 or 6 teams need one, and you might not have 5 or 6 capable ones. You have accomplishments. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, they've all done well. Kirk Cousins, but they're on the later half of their career.
Right, and so this is this show meeting conversation we're having where I just get to laughing about, like, we see it every year, right? We get to week whatever it is, and teams that have quarterbacks that just can't do it don't have a shot. So I would think if I'm Sam Darnold, and I know that the Vikings kind of like this guy they drafted because they used a high pick on McCarthy, I got to think that he just has to sit and wait and see just how loud someone's going to talk. And I got to think someone's going to yell at him to try to get his services. Is that the sense you have, Jeremy?
Yeah, Scott, that's the sense here in Indianapolis. This is a quarterback that won 14 games, put together a really good one-year body of work. So he will be coveted. And the fact that Matthew Stafford signed back with the Rams helps Sam Darnold a lot because that's one less chair he has to worry about with another team. So now you can leverage potentially Vegas with somebody else or even a Pittsburgh. I wouldn't take them totally off the table with a Darnold because he is considered the best option.
What do you hear, Jeremy, about – there's 2 more I'm curious about. I want to start with Russell Wilson because when – Coach Tomlin decided, all right, Fields has done well, but we're going with Wilson. And then it seemed to work, but then the wheels absolutely fall off at the end of the year for that Pittsburgh offense. And there are a lot of reasons why. They need playmakers. They've said as much. But what's the market and the appetite around the NFL if that's not the way Pittsburgh goes? In other words, if they say we're going to ride with Fields, who wants Wilson?
I do think Wilson probably has a home somewhere. You look at Las Vegas with Pete Carroll, could they run it back? I have talked to a few ex-Seattle assistants that work with Wilson. They believe that they've made amends from how things ended in Seattle. Okay. Maybe they could run it back. I'm hearing that the New York Giants, Wilson has at least looked at as a potential option for him. I still think there's a sentiment in the Pittsburgh building and in some circles of that building for Wilson to be the quarterback, but it's close between Fields and Wilson. If I had to pick one right now, I would pick Fields.
All right, last one, Kirk Cousins. He said he was hurt at the end of the year, and you hear maybe it was, ankle, shoulder, the whole lot of stuff kind of plaguing him, which would explain why it went so south. But Atlanta's saying, at least for the moment, all right, we're going to have a real expensive backup. Do you think that there's a market for him out there to be a starter potentially somewhere else?
It's interesting, Scott. I talked to a few executives here today, and they might think GM Terry Fontenot is not bluffing, saying that he's going to keep Kirk Cousins, that there's a scenario where if you're not going to get a draft pick for him and the money's guaranteed, you have to pay him anyways. Just keep him on the books, ride this out. It seems untenable based on the way things ended last year, but it's still entirely plausible. We haven't talked about the New York Jets, who I'm told are interested in Justin Fields, or at least are expected to investigate that market. If Cousins is available, they could do the same with him.
Man, it's fascinating. These teams just look at a quarterback that it was bad somewhere, but they look at him and go, we can make it work here. I guess that's where you got. Where else could you be, right? You got to find somebody somewhere, Jeremy. Appreciate the time, man. Be well. We'll be looking forward to talking again somewhere down the road. Confidence is the most important thing you can have. Shedeur Sanders' dad sure had it, and so does his son, one of the top quarterback prospects in this year's draft in Indianapolis this week for the Combine, will not be working out with the other QBs on Saturday. Speaking with the media on Friday, Sanders had some bold remarks about what he believes his impact will be wherever he might go.
If you ain't trying to change the franchise or the coach, don't give me. So you should know history repeats itself over and over and over, and I've done it over and over and over, so it should be no question why an NFL franchise should pick me. You think I'm worried about what critics say or what people got to say? You know who my dad is? They hated on him too. So it's like it's almost normal. Without people hating, it's not normal for us. So we like the adversity. We like everything that comes with the name. That's why we are who we are.
In Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest mock draft, which was released this week, he has Sanders going 7th to the New York Jets, which would pair him with a first-year head coach in Aaron Glenn. Kiper has Abdul Carter from Penn State, Cam Ward, the quarterback from Miami, and Travis Hunter, who Sanders played with and threw the ball to, going 1, 2, 3 overall. Speaking of that Heisman winner out of Colorado, not working out in Indy. Hunter has stated he believes he can play both ways at the next level. Our Ryan Clark said he could be a Hall of Fame DB. Hunter asked Friday about another rather accomplished two-way player in a different sport.
What's more difficult, what you do in football or what Johnny does in baseball?
Probably me, what I do in football, because it's a lot on your body. You know, Tony, he's a great player, but you got to do.
Today is skill position day at the NFL Combine. The quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers work out. A number of players, though, are bypassing drills. Colorado's Travis Hunter, Arizona's Teteroa McMillan, and Ohio State's Emeka Egbuka, the top 3 receivers in Mel Kiper's position rankings on ESPN.com, are reported to be skipping drills. Also the case for his top running back prospect, Boise State's Ashton Jeanty, who will take part in interviews with teams, and the top 2 rated quarterbacks in the draft, Colorado's Shedeur Sanders and Miami's Cam Ward, will not be throwing during today's workouts. Laura Rutledge anchors our coverage from Indy.
Big weekend here for the NFL at the Scouting Combine in Indy. Field Yates, Louis Riddick here. And we know that Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, they're not going to throw. Field, do you have any issue with them not being out here on this field tonight throwing?
Yeah, Laura, there's a part of me that'd like to see both of these guys throwing tonight because they are 2 of the most electric players in this entire draft class at the most important position in all of team sports. But do I understand it? I do wholeheartedly. In the case of these players, they have 9 combined college football seasons. If you don't know what kind of thrower both Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are by now, that's because you haven't been doing your homework. We are very much in a different age of the NFL Combine. It won't surprise me if we have headlines similar to this every year with the top quarterbacks. So I would have loved to have seen it myself, although I do understand why these guys are opting against.
Yeah, look, I've always had an issue with this, simply because, look, all of these guys, regardless of position, have tons of tape you can study. But the reason why they bring you here is not just necessarily to really ascertain whether or not you're a good player. They like to just kind of measure your level of competitiveness on an equal playing field where no one's really familiar with anybody. And look, to me, especially when it comes to quarterbacks, look, you're not going to hurt yourself here if you have a bad day, because every scout knows that you're kind of the deck is stacked against you. What they want to see is how quickly you can get on the same page with someone. Do you want to really compete against the other guys? And just kind of, again, measure you against another guy on a level playing field. Of course, it's not going to affect their draft status. I really don't care in the grand scheme of things. I just would have liked to see them compete because these guys are alphas. Yeah. And you would hope that they would accept the challenge. That's all.
Yeah, Cam Ward told me that he feels like his tape speaks for itself to the points that you're both making. You will, of course, see them both at their pro days. Those are the top 2 guys. But, Phil, there are plenty of quarterbacks that we will see throw tonight. Who sticks out to you? Who are you excited to see?
I'm looking forward to watching Dillon Gabriel, who may have thrown more footballs in his lifetime than the rest of these quarterbacks, as he played 6 seasons of college football at UCF and Oklahoma, then finally finishing up at Oregon. We don't have many left-handed quarterbacks. As a matter of fact, we have 1 in today's NFL. But this guy, I think, the arm strength has perhaps been over-discussed with Dillon Gabriel. I don't think there's a significant lack of zip or ability to drive the football down the field. Very accurate passer during that 1 season at Oregon as well. Very competitive guy. We saw him down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. Looking forward to seeing him showcase once again tonight. And I'll say this. In the right fit, it wouldn't surprise me if there are teams that feel like Dillon has a chance to become a starter at some point early on in his career.
Yeah, for me, it's Tyler Shuck from Louisville for sure, because, look, this is a guy who gets overlooked in the general conversation simply because he's a 7-year college veteran. He's been at 3 different programs. He's had a lot of injury history, and people go, well, automatically that disqualifies you for me. You can't be good if you had those kind of things surrounding your career. I caution you against doing that. Tonight, he will show that he has maybe the biggest arm here. He has some of the best touch here. For a guy who's 6'5", 235, 240, he has some of the best athleticism here, and he's been coached by some of the best coaches in college football, in Jeff and Brian Braun. Turn on the tape. Outside of this, you'll be totally impressed. I can't wait to see what kind of show he puts on.
He actually said he thinks being 25 is an advantage.
That's
that
right.
Experience that's led him to this
He
point.
can rent a car.
Good point. Cannot wait to see how it all shakes out here. Some players on this field, some quarterbacks have a chance to make themselves a lot of money tonight and potentially make some.
Ann and Ryan back drinking coffee.
Oh, yeah. That looks good this time of day. Well, quarterback questions, Ryan, at least one we know has been answered. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford has agreed to stay in Los Angeles on a restructured deal. The adjusted contract was agreed upon after his agent Jimmy Sexton had discussions with the Giants and the Raiders about contract parameters. The new deal keeping Stafford with the Rams for at least one more year. According to our Adam Schefter, who has escaped from the combine at this point. Shefty, how many combines is that for you, by the way?
I believe that was my 32nd, Hannah. Wow. 32nd. So I've been going to the combine, Hannah, longer than you've been alive, Hannah.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Spot on, Adam.
I love it.
Spot on.
You are correct. What? I love your math. Okay, so we have seen the first domino fall in this quarterback carousel. Stafford staying in L.A. So a lot of other teams obviously have to reevaluate their pursuit of a quarterback. How might what happened yesterday benefit 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers?
Actually, I don't think it benefited him in the way that he would have liked. In a perfect world, Aaron Rodgers would have seen Matthew Stafford traded to either the Raiders or the Giants, freeing up the spot in the musical chair world of quarterback carousel in Los Angeles. I think in a perfect world, Aaron Rodgers would have loved to have stayed where he has a house, played for the Rams. The Rams would have had interest, but the Rams got the deal worked out with Stafford. He stays. There's no opening in L.A., and that means Aaron Rodgers, if he wants to play, is going to have to look elsewhere, and that means he'll have to look at the New York Giants. He'll have to look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's only so many spots open. Now, I think both those teams could have some level of interest. The Giants are investigating various options about what they do. The Pittsburgh Steelers are talking primarily right now to Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, but Los Angeles would have been the ideal landing spot for Aaron Rodgers, but Matthew Stafford took that spot on Friday, Hannah.
Yeah, which definitely will serve the Rams well, the fact that they got that done. Meanwhile, the Raiders were interested in Stafford. I mean, apparently he and Tom Brady were hanging out in Montana. They do draft 6th overall. But what are their options at this point at quarterback?
I think that they're going to take a number of swings in a number of ways to fill that quarterback position. Now, the first way will be through free agency, and they're going to look at veteran